Good morning, dolls, and welcome to Little Gretchen's Workshop. So today I'm going to share with you some of the things that I created preparing for my canning video. It's funny that they call it canning because the food is actually in jars. Now I didn't show how to make these fruits and vegetables because they're all pretty simple. The berries are teeny round balls, the eggs are kind of oval shaped, and the string beans are just skinny threads of clay. Now this is what they look like after they were baked. They kind of clump together, but they'll separate easily when I'm ready to put them in the jars. And at this stage, they don't look like much, but by the time I'm done, they're going to be really cute. So in a previous video, I made quite a few crates, and I will leave a link in the description if you haven't seen that, but I felt like I needed to make some more. These crates are going to be a little bit more shallow so that I won't have to use so much filler to make it look like the containers are full. And it was really very interesting and a lot of fun looking online to see how many different types of crates and shipping containers there actually were. So there's really no wrong way to do it. Depending on what you're shipping or trying to transport, you may need something different. So for me, this is just another variation of a fruit crate. Now I'm making these out of popsicle stick scraps, and I'm just trying to find pieces that are similar length so I can just even them out. To me, it's always so much fun to see what I can do with some scraps and remnants. Now you want to make sure you got two sides that match. Now you can make them square, you can make them more rectangular. Again, there's no wrong way. It's whatever you like or whatever you're going to fill your containers with. Now these I'm more or less making them square. Now I am using the term square loosely. Now it's probably not exactly plumb, but I think it'll work for what I'm trying to do. Now this may be a really good option for you if you're new to miniatures or if you're just trying to make something quick and simple. The funny part is I had no intention of making any fruit crates today. As a matter of fact, I wasn't going to make the fruit, but I started to play. And when I started to play, all types of ideas started to come to me. So I really want to encourage you, dolls, to take the time to play. You'll be surprised at what you discover. So dolls, let me get back to the fruit. So these are my little peaches. Now I just rolled out some peach tone colored clay into little balls and I split them in half with my craft knife. And now I'm using my ball stylus to push like an indentation in the center because I wanted to make it look like they're peaches that have had the stone removed. Now, they're not very defined. I haven't added any texture or anything to them. Now, definitely take as little or as much time as you need to create your fruits and vegetables for your canning projects. But for me, the detail is unnecessary because it's going to be inside tiny jars. Now, this is definitely a project that's going to take you some time, but be patient with yourself because it doesn't have to be perfect to be cute. Now, I really don't know how many of these I'll actually need. I just made a lot because I wasn't sure how many jars that I needed to fill, but it's always best to make more than you need. Now, after making all of those peaches, I felt like I needed to make a few cantaloupes. Now, dolls, I know that cantaloupe is more of a summer fruit and it's not necessarily something that people use in canning, but I really like cantaloupe. Plus, I had quite a bit of the peach colored clay left. I mixed a little bit with the translucent clay, and the translucent clay makes the inside of the cantaloupe look more realistic. Now, again, my fruits and vegetables are not high definition, but I think at a glance you'll be able to recognize what it is. Now, after I had the translucent clay mixed in with the peach color clay, I added a little more yellow and then rolled it into 5 little balls. Now that the body of the cantaloupe is together, I need to go ahead and create the skin. Now I had a piece of clay that I thought would work out for the skin, but I realized it was a little bit dark, so I ended up adding a little bit of white to it. And after I added the white, it definitely looked like cantaloupe skin. And after I covered them all with skin, I rolled them again to make them smooth and set them aside to cool off from all the handling. And it's not a bad idea to sit them in the fridge a little while so that it'll firm up before you roll it on the tin foil. I'm sorry, aluminum foil. Now I'm using that little tool that I created with a toothpick and some spare clay to create the segmented lines in the cantaloupe. Or is that honey rock? It definitely depends on where you're from, what things are called. And I did demonstrate how to create that little tool in a previous video, and I will leave a link in the description. Now, I didn't make the segments very deep because I wasn't sure that I was going to keep them, but I was just trying it out to see how much realism it actually added for my project. Now, if you're going to add the segments, you definitely want to take your time and start from the center of whichever part you consider the top. Now, I did allow my cantaloupes to sit in the freezer for a little while because I wanted them to be firm enough to cut without flattening, and they still weren't as firm as I needed them to be. I probably needed to leave them a little bit longer, because when the clay is firm, you get a cleaner cut. Although the shape is a little off, I really am pleased with the coloring of the skin and the inside. Now that I've cut it in half, I use the large end of my ball stylus to press in the middle to make it look as though the seeds have been removed. Then I went on to add texture to the rest of the melon balls. So I ended up leaving 3 of the melons solid, and I cut 2 in half, and then I split one of the halves in half. Well, maybe not exactly half, but I cut another segment to make it look as though someone was preparing to serve it. Now let's finish up these boxes. Now again, I made the frames out of popsicle sticks, and now I'm using a thin piece of cardboard to make the bottoms. So I really want to encourage you dolls to use what you have, so never allow the perceived lack of material stop you from creating. Now, before I go any further, I just feel led to share some things with you. Now, these are some of my fruits and vegetables I made quite a while back, and you can see that first clump was pretty large because I was struggling with proportion and scale. And then I learned to make them a little bit smaller, and they do look better. They're still not perfect. With each attempt, you get a little bit better. Now, these dark green pears are the ones I made a couple years ago, and the lighter ones are the ones I made the other day. And look at the difference in my egg. Now, all these things were made before I discovered polymer clay, and although the material is different, my technique is the same. Now here's a peek at some of my little apples, and although I think they're really cute, the ones that I made recently fit more into my 12 scale setting. And look at my now and then potatoes, my cucumbers, and even my peaches. Now, if you're not up to making fruit, there are other options. These are actually berries that I pulled off of a Christmas ornament years ago, and they definitely pass as dollhouse fruit. Now, I did make some carrots, although I didn't show you how to make them because they're just little rolled cones. And I used to try to make the stems with clay, but it never looked very realistic. So today I'm using these strings that I'm pulling apart. Now, I had drilled some holes in the tops of the carrots, and now I'm adding glue to the tips of these yellow strings. And you may ask, why is the string yellow? It's just what I had, dolls. I didn't have any green. So after I twisted the little yellow stems and glued them into the tops of all of my carrots, I allowed the stems to dry into the base of the carrot. I painted the stems or the string green. Now, I did mix a couple different shades of green, trying to get the most realistic color. Now, it would be a best practice to actually paint the little stems or strings before you insert them in the carrots. But when I did this, I was experimenting, and I actually hadn't intended to keep it until after all this play, I realized I had created something I really was happy with. So while I'm allowing the glue and paint to dry on everything else, it's time for me to finish up the boxes. Now, this larger box, I really wanted it to make it look like it had the little opening for the handle for the hands. So I'm kind of gouging it out here on the edge so that I can make that little opening. And I started out with my craft knife, and then right in the middle of everything, I realized I had my Dremel out already, and I used it to help perfect the curve of my opening. Now, in order to make it comfortable for the dolls to carry, I glued a small round wooden dowel right across the opening to create a handle. And after I was finished with my boxes, I stained them with old wood stain and glued vintage-looking food labels all over them. So let's check out these carrots. Now, these are some old carrots I made years ago, and these are my new carrots that I just made with the strings that I painted to be the stems. And I really do think these carrots I made with the string stems look more realistic than the ones I made previously trying to make stems with clay. So let me show you how I arranged them. Now, I didn't discard the ones that I made previously that I didn't like as much. I actually used them to be the base of my box. So they're included, they're just not on top as a showpiece. So that's another way that you can use your seconds or your items that don't turn out so good. You can use them as fillers. And I'm really excited about how these carrots turned out because now using the string, to me, that really took them up a notch. so I can only imagine what my next set will be like. So although these are not perfect, I think they're an upgrade and an improvement to the ones that I made previously. So let me go ahead and pull my whole vision together. So before I go, I want to give a very warm welcome to all my new subscribers and to those of you who haven't subscribed but you're watching. I appreciate you as well. I truly enjoy creating these videos for you dolls. And if you enjoyed this video today, let me know in the comments. And I'm looking forward to seeing you on the next episode of Little Gretchen's Workshop. Bye-bye now, dolls.